say to me, why don't you try to do TV so people could see you, so people could see what you look like? And I would just laugh at them and be like, that's not my thing, though, even though I would be flattered at the comment, better than saying, oh, yeah, do radio, because nobody would want to see you. It was always the opposite. It was always like, no, let people see what you look like. It's like
sometimes they say to people, you have a face for radio.
Exactly. And I've heard people like joke about that with other people, and I'm always like, that is so rude. Like, why would you say that to somebody? But I would always, very nicely and very, I guess I could say humbled and very grateful, but people would always say, why don't you do TV? Like, you could do TV. But I always wanted to do radio. And one of the people who actually I had the honor of talking with for my website is Artie Lang. And Artie Lang was on the Howard Stern show. And not to digress too much, but I listened to Howard. I know he had a bad reputation when I was younger growing up. My brothers used to listen to him, and I really didn't listen too much in the beginning when he was doing all that crazy stuff. But I would say more like the 90s when Artie came on, and they were just doing more comedy stuff, and Howard was doing interviews. And I would always sit and listen and be like, God, I would love to be on a show like that. Like, I think it's so fun. And I thought Howard, like, he didn't even need guests. His staff was hysterical enough.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm a huge Howard, or was. I can't listen to him now, but I was a huge fan back in the 90s, and yeah, he would make just stories out of just his staff doing things and make big deals out of that. So you didn't even need guests. Yeah. And he should get credit for people just think of him as the crude stuff, but he's actually very intelligent, and you're right.
So smart.
Artie came on, and Artie was great on that show because the comments he'd make and stuff. But
oh my God, yeah, no, definitely, and that's kind of what was always in the back of my mind. And like I said, and you just mentioned it too, everyone thinks about all the crazy, crude, ridiculous stuff Howard did in the beginning, and I was really young, and to be honest with you, I wasn't even allowed to listen to it. But as I got older, because I had older brothers who would know whether or not something was for me or not. And even though they listened, they'd be like, no, this isn't for you. But as I got older, I did like the comedians he had on, and I did like how funny and intelligent he was. Because a lot of people would say to me, you liked Howard Stern, or you like, I'm just like, you don't understand. You got to see past all the stuff. You got to kind of look at his comedic timing and the comedy that they do, and even like I said, even his staff, like he picked like these amazing people. Sometimes I wondered where he found them,
right.
And he didn't, like we both just said, he didn't even need the guests, just himself and Robin and that whole network that he had going there. Well, anyway, that's what I kept thinking in the back of my mind, just to get back to my original answer, because you had asked me how I got into radio. I just always in the back of my mind wanted to do it. And long story short, I decided last December, that for the new year, that was going to be my goal, is I was going to get a job in radio. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I had absolutely no experience. I had nothing on my resume other than education, other than being a teacher. I had no plan. It was just a decision that I made. And I used Twitter to, I always say stalk, but I shouldn't say that. But if you ask my boss, he will tell you that I stalked on Twitter. I literally went to the Twitter pages of the two radio stations that I now work for. And I didn't know it was my boss at the time, but he was the one putting out the posts and putting out the tweets. I thought it was just an intern. So I would be liking everything and retweeting and commenting on everything. I mean, it was literally around the clock. I mean, when they put something out, I jumped on it. And then I'd start DMing who I thought was an intern, saying, give me some advice. What would somebody do if they wanted to get into radio? How would they make their way to the radio station, and this and that? And he always referred to himself as the third person, meaning he never told me he was the boss. He never told me he ran things. He always referred to this boss in a third person. So I thought I was talking to some 19-year-old intern. Like, I didn't know I was talking to the guy who hires people. And, and he even said in the beginning he was very cautious because people would always say, oh, I always wanted to work in radio, and that seems like so much fun, and can meet celebrities and this and that. But they would never follow through. Or they would always want to do it for the wrong reasons. I never wanted to do it to meet celebrities. I never wanted to do it so I could hang out backstage at concerts. Like, that's not, there's so much work involved. I mean, it's so much work. People don't realize how much work goes into putting a show together, what goes on behind the scenes, doing the promotion, the marketing, even being the talent, on the mic. People don't know all the prep that goes into it. Yeah. So anyway, again, let me just, make this short. One day I don't know, I just sort of felt like I need to do this. So I DM'd him and I just said, honestly, tell me what to do. Who do I talk to? And he just said, you need to just send a resume, send a tape of your voice if you're looking to do, send a reel, an audio reel if you're looking to be on air. And I was honest with him. I said, I'll pour coffee. I said, I'll go buy bagels. I don't care. I just want my foot in the door. I said, and I've been, a teacher for X amount of years. I have no prior experience. I never went to broadcasting school, but I really want to do this. And something clicked. Something clicked. And he ended up going to my Twitter page. I remember this very clearly. And that next day, that next morning, he liked like 30 of my photos. And it was funny because he even said to me what everyone else had been saying, why don't you try to do TV? Like, I just saw what you look like. Go do TV. And I'm like, no, I want to do radio. And he just said, all right, come down to the studio. Long story short, sat for half an hour, maybe 40 minutes, took a tour of the studio for another 10. And then at the end, he was like, so do you want a job with us? And I was like, yes. I almost cried. I think I did cry. I don't even remember. But I jumped up and down. I was like a crazy person. And then he let me go into the studio where like the DJs were working, and I got to take pictures, and he let me meet. He introduced me to everybody. But then at the end of all that, very seriously, he pulled me aside and he just said, do you want a job here? And I asked him, like, when we started working together on our promotional events, I said, why did you even hire me? I was like, Anthony, seriously, I have no experience whatsoever. I don't know what I'm doing. I literally just walk around with my mouth open. At least I did the first couple months. And he's like, because you legitimately wanted this.
Yeah.
Legitimately. It was very obvious. Your excitement, your passion, the way you took it all in. He goes, and even though I would always joke around saying how, oh my God, I'm walking around, with my mouth hanging open, I don't know what I'm doing. He would always say, you did learn quickly. You took it all in. You were like a sponge because you were so excited. Because I felt in the beginning that I wasn't even like worthy of being there. I was like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. And I kept like joking around saying, I'll pour coffee. I'll go to Dunkin' Donuts. I'll go to Starbucks for you guys. Like, I just felt like, I hadn't earned it. The way that everybody else did. Because I felt like I got really lucky. And I really put 1,000% though. Whenever we do an event, whenever I'm at the station, whenever I'm doing anything, if he hands me that microphone and says, go off, or hands me the camera and says, go take photos, whatever I'm doing, I put 1,000% into it. But there was a period of time in the beginning where I kept questioning myself, like, what am I doing? This is crazy. Because I literally was, so for as excited as I was, Joe, I was so overwhelmed. I was so overwhelmed. But honestly, I still today, it's almost a year, and I have days where I literally look at myself in the mirror and go, how did this happen? Like, who orchestrated this? Like, this must have been God or my dad or somebody up there really helped me out, because really against all odds, because I mean, who would have thought like a preschool teacher, a special education teacher would end up doing what I'm doing now a year later? Like, it's amazing.
It's great. And I mean, to me, there's parallels to your dad. He came here for a new opportunity for something better, and you decided you wanted something better, and you went on and get it. That's kind of like what I did with this podcast. I got tired of, I felt I had a voice. And it's like, well, I want to talk. I want to talk to people. I want, and I would pester people that had podcasts and beg them to come on theirs. And finally they're like, fine, whatever. But that wasn't enough. It's like, I want more. And I'm just make my own podcast. And I had a lot of self-doubt, like, jeez, I don't know if I know how to do this. And then I just decided to do it. And that's the thing. You just go for it. You take the opportunity. So,
and you know what's amazing? You seem like you've been doing this forever. Like, you're very comfortable. You're very natural. You have a very good voice for radio. I work with a lot of DJs. I work with a lot of radio personalities. You do have a very good voice. So I'm really kind of surprised that it took you this long. But everyone says that to me, too, that work with me now at the radio station. Like, they thought, one guy said to me recently at an event, so have you been doing this, like, for what, 10, 12 years? And I looked at him like, try 10 months.
Right.
Try 10, 11 months. But no, because even with my website, it was kind of the same thing, to be honest with you. Something I thought about, something I had sort of, in my mind, had planned it out. And it wasn't until I met Rudy Reyes on Twitter, and we would message each other, and he'd check in on me and see what I was up to.
I'll be talking to later, by the way.
Which is kind of funny, because he told me on Twitter, he's like, oh, by the way, what a small world, I'll be on too. I'm like, yeah, Joe just told me. But no, and Rudy kind of lit that fire under me and was like, okay, so you got to the radio station, what next? What's next?
Yeah.
What else are you going to do? And I'm just like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, you want to talk on the air. What are you going to wait for? Someone to quit? You're going to wait for an opportunity to open? He's like, you might be waiting forever. He's like, you want to talk on the air? Go do a podcast. You want to interview and write articles? Go do a website. Like, that was Rudy's, that was his way. And to be honest with you, at first I was like so taken aback, like, are you kidding? And he's just like, no, you create your own opportunities. And I've lived by that. Ever since he said that to me, I've always lived by that for the past year, I guess you could say, maybe not even a year, maybe the past 6 months. Because when I started talking to him, as grateful as I was, and I am, to be at the radio station, I really wanted to do more. I mean, I love doing promotions. I love being behind the scenes. I love putting shows together. I love meeting the listeners and the fans, and I love doing all that. Like I said, I take photos. I talk to people. I love it. But there was so much more I wanted to do. And my main thing was to do interviews and to do them on air. Like, I always wanted to interview people on air. And Rudy was just like, well, then go do a podcast or go do a website. Like, he's like, you need to go do that. He's like, you can't just sit back and wait for an opportunity to come, because it may never come. So you create your own. So I just think it's kind of funny that he's going to be on later. But yeah, that's sort of the same mentality with the website. It was just something I've wanted to do for such a long time. And now I'm actually interviewing celebrities, which I never set out to do that. But yet it was something I always thought about. Like, I had no prior experience.
You're your own Howard Stern, except you're minus the crude stuff. You're because Howard is an expert interviewer. And
he is. People don't realize it is not easy to interview people and to keep the conversation going and to keep the momentum up and to keep people interested in listening. It's not easy, because sometimes you'll interview someone and they don't say very much. It's not a comfortable conversation.
Right.
And if you don't have somebody who gives it to you, gives you what you need and puts it out there so you can work with them, it is not easy. And a lot of people don't realize that. But yeah, I would say the website, like the radio job, very similar, because no prior experience, didn't know how it was going to happen. And like I said, if it wasn't for Rudy Reyes, I don't even think I'd have a website, and I don't think I'd be interviewing all these great people, because when he said it to me, I was really like, are you serious? I was like, just getting to the radio station was like an amazing thing. I'm like, almost like now I have to come up with something else. And he's like, well, if it's what you want, you have to go get it. And I honestly can say that, I mean, as much as I love the radio job, and I hope I'm there, or at least in radio, if not there, then in radio, for the rest of my days. But I definitely want to say that my website has been such an amazing, delightful surprise, because I really never thought that a couple of months ago when I started it, that I would have gotten to this point, where I'm interviewing like these great people. Like I still can't believe it sometimes. Yeah. It's amazing to me. It really is. I'm sure you feel the same way about your podcast.
I do, because some of the people that I get, it's like, wow. Like sometimes I'm even afraid to ask people. It's like,
I know.
I don't think I'm good enough, but